when stuff like this happens, it's hard to make like the reasoning why. Everybody's going to have the reasons why stuff like this happens. And I want to show you guys a story here that kind of flew under the radar. People are cutting jobs in other places, in certain places. Now, some people are going to say it's the economy, recession, all that stuff, and that absolutely has to be weaved into it. However, I think there's other things. Wells running dry, people's attention is being placed elsewhere. There's other things that are going to, I think it all kind of has something to do with one another, and you can't just pin it on just, like, let me say this. If you just say, hey, it's because of everybody's cutting jobs because of the economy, then that's, I think, being a little disingenuous because some people aren't. Some people are. Other people's will, for sure, inevitably speaking, that is going to happen. But you also have to consider that when you're already operating on like this house of cards, or you got faulty ground, or you were banking on, you were overspending, right? You were banking on this being like an end thing, and it didn't get the return that it get. It's so easy to fall back on that. But even we're seeing that with Disney, like Disney's cutting jobs left to right. But even Bob Iger is like, we need to look at our spending. So even he is telling you, like, we need to look at our spending. Like, our spending is a fundamental issue. So Showtime is now laying off people. On Monday, Showtime wiped out 10%, which is more significant than what Disney did, of its staff with a brutal round of layoffs. And it says Monday started with a shock and awe campaign in Showtime as the exits of a slew of top executives, even top executives, or usually those are the guys that keep their jobs, were announced in short succession. By the end of the day, about 120 people in total had lost their jobs in the layoffs. That represents more than 10% of the company's workforce. That's a significant. See, yeah, with something like that, you can't just pin that on the economy. That's too big of a number to be just completely laying off right there. It says obviously we know Disney talking about 7,000 layoffs. Netflix is laying off so many people. You see some of these reports happening. This was after the Paramount Plus merger. They were, obviously this article is going to have what their thoughts are, and that's the woke stuff. And I'm not saying that a lot of that can't be part of it, because I believe that it absolutely is. It is part of it. It's just not the end all. It's bad content. It's people not interested. It's your spending habits. We've seen with movies, even like indie movies, like people are overspend. Like, you're seeing some of the budgets for some of these movies, they're insane now, man. Like they're getting, and a lot of it's red tape, right? It's the rules that Hollywood has set for itself, where you have to hire this amount of people to do this. You got to hire a person that does this job, when that can be combined into one person doing that job. It's a lot of spending issues, and this is important because it comes to a shock. Like the industry itself, as even Deadline themselves, who reports on all this stuff all the time, they are saying that since Monday started with a shock and awe campaign in Showtime as the exit of a slew of top executives, that's what we just read. Says leading departures are co-presidents of entertainment. So even the president is gone. We got some other guys, got an EVP, as well as EVP nonfiction Vinny. It's the EVP of non. I got you. And they got a COO, and the CFO's gone. EVP and General Counsel Rob Rosenberg, and EVP Content Acquisition Kent Sevener. All these guys are gone. As Showtime's content strategy is shifting under Chris McCarthy, its scripted content team under EVP Amy Israel is believed to have reimagined largely intact, or remain, largely intact, as it now reports that all these other people are still going to be there. Already on track to be integrated with Paramount Plus, Showtime is now merging with MTV Entertainment Studios. The double consolidation has resulted in layoffs because they don't need you, which had been looming for months, dubbed internally as the Valentine's Day Massacre. The cuts reportedly involve shared services as well as other areas of nonfiction. So it's part of the new structure. It's thinning the herd. It's trying to become more efficient because, as I've said many times these guys are spending too much money for products that people aren't actually interested in. Everybody's still trying to catch up with streaming and the role that it plays in entertainment in the future. I don't think it's caught up. Streaming in itself introduced an entirely new game to really every industry that it got implemented in. I talk about this all the time with music. Music is still trying to catch up to what a stream is considered. What's considered a diamond album, nobody really knows. It's changing, ever changing. What's considered a set, because it's hard to scale that in terms of what it was before based on that industry. So the industry's still trying to catch up with what it's doing. But cutting off 10% of your workforce is a very significant thing. Yes, there's business changes, all this stuff is going on, and they probably think, hey, we have someone internal that can already provide that, so we don't need to be double paying, which in itself says that you're paying too much to make that happen. Because if they were able to do it before you were entered in, and they're picking up another entity, and they're thinking that we can have someone that's already internal with this merger that can do this, then that means that you probably had a bunch of fake jobs that were existing that you really didn't need. But to be fair, that's what Hollywood is. That's what entertainment is. And it's going to go through over the next quarter. I think we're just getting started. Over the next couple of years, you're going to see a whole bunch of changes within these various industries, layoffs that are going to be happening, because definitely as people misanalyze the industry in itself, nobody, they're like, all right, we've spent all this money. We were banking on this being a thing. Maybe we didn't analyze it correctly. It's not bringing as much of a return as we anticipated. We know Disney's losing all kinds of money with their streaming services. So this is what you're going to start to see a lot more of. And I don't know how that looks on the other end, because I do know this. They got to start spending less money. If Disney is they the top dog over there, if they saying we got to spend, yeah, the rest of y'all spending too much for products that people may or may not be interested in. Let's just say that. So 10% though of the workforce, that's pretty significant. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.